Hello, Tar Heel Nation. Welcome back into another episode of the UNC Hoops Talk podcast. I know what you're thinking. You thought I was going to miss July, almost missed June, barely got that one in. Said I was coming back with recruiting in July. I got to push that back to August. As you can probably hear, a little bit under the weather. I'm pretty nasally here, fighting off a summer cold, probably the worst type there is. But just a crazy July. With my wife's job and with the kids and newborn. If you didn't hear that whole story, you can listen to the last podcast. The beginning of the last podcast explained kind of how our lives were turned upside down. We're still adjusting, but I'm very confident that I'm going to get that recruiting one in August. The older kids will get back into preschool, so I'll have some little bit more time there. Getting used to the newborn schedule again, napping and stuff. Hopefully she naps through this podcast. And hopefully also we can get Ross Martin, who's been our recruiting guru the last couple of years, back on the podcast as well. But I will bring you something next month, in August. Hopefully more towards the beginning or middle of August instead of these late monthly podcasts. But, we're getting close. I'm so excited for this upcoming season, defending our national championship, all that good stuff. It's just so exciting. We got a good team coming back, and we got a little bit of news here. Not a lot, but I'll move on. I do want to thank you guys for joining in, for listening. I know the beginning of this podcast is going on too long here, and I'm rambling, but I want to thank you for coming in. Hopefully my nasally voice isn't too much to deter you guys, and you'll stick through and listen to the news, and I'd love to hear your feedback about any of the news, anything you think I missed as far as Tar Heel basketball goes and all that stuff. But jump in the conversation with me. But we're going to start off first with the roster. The 2017-18 Tar Heel roster was officially announced. Obviously, we got everybody coming back from last year except for Nate, Isaiah, and Kennedy. Also, I think there maybe have been a walk-on or two that graduated as well. And then, of course, Justin, who went early into the draft, and Tony, who left after his freshman season, Tony Bradley, our latest one and done. Leaving early, but we got everybody else back. And along with those guys returning, we also know, as we talked about last podcast and last couple, as the drama went on, but we got Cam Johnson, graduate transfer, who actually has 2 seasons of eligibility left from Pittsburgh. And then our incoming scholarship freshman, our Andrew Platek out of New York, a shooter. Jalik Felton, obviously, we know he is the nephew of Raymond Felton. He's out of South Carolina. Garrison Brooks out of Alabama. Sterling Manley out of Ohio. Brandon Huffman, 3 big guys, freshmen who will need some production from this year. But Brandon Huffman out of North Carolina. And then we have a walk-on freshman, Walker Miller, who is actually the younger brother of Wes Miller, who we know played for the Tar Heels, and now is the UNC Greensboro head coach over there. So, and then I guess also new to the team is KJ Smith out of California. He is a transfer out of the University of Pacific, but he will sit out this season, so he won't play in this season. He'll be joining the team, I guess officially you'd say, as far as playing wise goes next year. But he is the son of the Jet, Kenny Smith. So it's good to see those second generation Tar Heels coming in into the program and hopefully being able to add something. So along with the roster being announced, the numbers, the jersey numbers of the freshmen obviously being released, and we have actually a couple of changes amongst returning players. We have 2 players. Seventh Woods, who was wearing 21, will be wearing number 0, taking that over for Nate Britt. And then Brandon Robinson, who was number 14 this year, will be going to number 4, as Isaiah Hicks gave that one up this year when he graduated. Our freshman, Andrew Platek, will be wearing number 3, so it'll be a little weird seeing a skinnier number 3, as we've been used to Kennedy Meeks wearing number 3. Now it'll be a shooter out there instead of big guy. Jalik Felton will wear number 5, so he'll try to continue that lure of the number 5 point guard at UNC. Obviously, that one being vacated by Tony Bradley, so going back from a big man down to the point guard position again. And when I first saw that, I was like, oh, just like his uncle. But I'm pretty sure Raymond Felton was actually number 2 at North Carolina, and he was one of the few great point guards that didn't wear number 5 at North Carolina. So yeah, that's a little bit of a change there. Let's see here. Cam Johnson will wear number 13. Hopefully it's a lucky number 13 for him. Garrison Brooks taking number 15. Let's see, I'm trying to think if anybody since Vince Carter has worn that, but I can't think of anybody off the top of my head. I didn't do the research, but Garrison Brooks will be wearing that number 15. Brandon Huffman will be wearing number 42, Sean May's old number. And what do we got? Sterling Manley will be wearing number 21. So taking that over from Jawad Williams, Deion Thompson, and not sure if anybody's worn it. Well, yeah, we had Seventh Woods who wore number 21 last year. So Manley will be taking that. And then Wes Miller's little brother Walker will be donning that number 22, just like Wes did in the Carolina Blue. Excuse me. And KJ Walker will be taking on that number 30, just like his dad Kenny did for the Tar Heels. So that'll be great to see him. Obviously, if you're a younger fan, you didn't see Kenny wear the number 30, and it's a little bit before my time. But I have seen the pictures and the highlights, and it's just barely before my time. So I saw some of that stuff, saw some of him in there. But it'll be good to see a Smith back at number 30. And hopefully Walker can shoot it like his brother Wes did for the Tar Heels and contribute like he did as well. So yeah, there's the roster for the 2017-18 Tar Heels. We also got the official release of the non-conference schedule. We pretty much knew all this. We talked about a lot of it. I'm not going to run through all of the games, but it is up if you go to goheels.com or look on Twitter for it. A lot of people have tweeted out the official. And we got the dates for all the games. Of course, not the game times yet. Some of them that point out or jump out to me as far as non-conference ones, more so just that I would like to go to or look at going to. Not that the first one is, but Northern Iowa, possibly when the new banner will be raised, if it's not before then already. We go to Stanford to play against Jared Hass's team. And then we are also over Thanksgiving. I wanted to try to get to this, but the Phil Knight 80th birthday tournament over Thanksgiving, I don't think the family is going to let me do that, but that's over Thanksgiving weekend. We play Davidson in Charlotte. They're always a decent team. And so to play them in Charlotte will be a little bit tougher. Not enough Tar Heel fans in Charlotte anyway, but just makes it that much tougher there playing Davidson in Charlotte. And then hopefully a game I can get to December 17th is a Sunday. We play at Tennessee. It's only a few hours from me, so I need to make that game. And hopefully I can make that happen. And then I wanted to go to the CBS Sports Classic because it's in New Orleans. That's only like 5 hours from me. Excuse me. We play Ohio State, but it's December 23rd, and I don't know that I'm going to be able to make that happen right before Christmas like that. So some of the highlights, and then we'll probably get in, I'm guessing, at least one, if not two ACC games before the turn of the year into 2018. So something that changed, I believe this past year was the first year that it happened. So we'll probably get that again. Really quickly, some other news here. The Basketball Museum is closing. It is closed already because it closed July 17th. It will reopen September 4th. So if you're planning a trip to Chapel Hill, unfortunately, you won't be able to see the Basketball Museum unless you're going after September 4th. And I think that's all kind of for the news. Looking back over the past month, we did have the NBA Summer League. And we talked about where our guys were playing as far as how they did. Justin Jackson put up some nice stats for the Kings in the Summer League. Hopefully he can get some run this season the way he played in the Summer League. Marcus Page played pretty well for the Wolves, so hopefully he can catch on, if not there, somewhere and get some of that NBA money and get onto a team and hopefully work his way into a rotation from there. Kennedy Meeks got signed by the Raptors after his summer league, put up some nice numbers, and was really effective for the Raptors. So he signed his contract. I don't know that it guarantees that he'll stay in there. Could be going back and forth from the D League or now the G League and the NBA. But it's there. Bryce played pretty well for the Clippers. Isaiah Hicks is a little bit up and down for the Clippers. I don't know that the Clippers are going to sign him. Hopefully somebody brings him in for training camp and he can maybe earn a spot or earn a contract from there, but I don't know about that. Nate Britt, I didn't see really any of his. I didn't see much stats. I don't think he's going to make the NBA. Hopefully he can get signed overseas somewhere and play well. And again, maybe in the D League. He can play in the D League, I know that. But I think sometimes the money's better overseas, so it's kind of what he and his agent decide. I saw JP was on a team. I think he was on the Jazz with Tony for the summer league, but I didn't see him really play. I didn't see any stats. But again, hopefully he'd get into a training camp and make some money, get onto a roster, whatever he needs to do to keep doing well. Tony had a couple of good games. I don't know that he was consistent. Again, I didn't see all of his games or all of his stats, but I know he had some moments that were well for the Jazz. And then we also had a couple of Tar Heels get signed overseas. Tyler Hansborough is going to be playing in China. And then it was first reported that Ty Lawson was going to be playing in China. And then he kind of said it's not done yet. And I haven't seen any reports since then. So I'm thinking he will, the way it was kind of looking, that he's going to be signing in China and playing in China this year. But I guess it was not official yet. And so I can't officially say that. A couple of transactions concerning Tar Heels. Vince Carter went over to the Sacramento Kings. So hopefully I think that'll be great for Justin Jackson. Obviously they have that connection. They probably met in summer league, or not summer league, but in pickup games in Chapel Hill. And so hopefully he can, obviously Vince is just a professional. I mean, he's 40 years old. He's been there. He's done it all. Hopefully he can kind of show the ropes to Justin Jackson and put him on the right track in his professional career for some longevity and just some success as far as that goes. But looking over my notes here real quick, I think that's all of the news about the Tar Heels and UNC Hoops. Again, thanks for listening. Before you turn this off, I did want to throw it out there. I'm thinking about or wanting to try to start a mastermind kind of chat or group for the podcast. So if you are a hardcore listener, if you really enjoy this podcast, or if you just think you can make it that much better, hit me up either through email, UNCHoopsTalk@gmail.com, or on Twitter @AllTarHeelDan, and just DM me a message and we'll talk. But I want to get a mastermind group of just giving me suggestions, advice, making sure I don't miss any news, anything like that, and also possibly even contributing more than that. We'll see where it goes. I don't have it all drawn out. I've never done a mastermind group, but if there's people interested, just like 3 to 5 people max. I don't want it a big group or anything like that. But if you're listening to this and you're a big time fan and you think you would be interested in that, let me know. And then along with that, if you have ever wanted to run a UNC basketball social media account, or think that you'd be good at it and help it succeed, it would be this podcast. I'm thinking like Instagram. I have an Instagram for the podcast, but obviously anything UNC basketball related can go up there. It doesn't have to be just about the podcast. That would get too boring. But Facebook group, if you would want to get that going, I got one. I don't do a lot there. I just don't have enough time for, Instagram and Facebook group, even Snapchat. I have one for all of those, an account for all these for this podcast, but I just can't be everywhere and be putting content everywhere. So if you would like to help the podcast and grow it in that way, and also run a social media account connected with, obviously not officially connected, but connected to or related to UNC Hoops, hit me up either on Twitter or email again, or any of the links that are down in the description below, and or even writing the blog. Again, I don't put anything up on the blog besides the podcast really, but if you want to write and just put up there, if you're afraid I'm not a good writer and I don't want anybody to see it, that would be a great place to start. You put stuff up there and not very many people would see it, but we could grow it and you could become a better writer. So just want to throw that out there. I thought I had a couple of people last year and it kind of fell through. So I'd like to get that going before the season, obviously this year, and yeah, just ramp stuff up. But like I said, it's going to be an exciting year. I'm ready for this year. I'm just pumped, as we are always for every year. But you know what I mean. It's just great to be defending national champions. But again, I want to thank you for listening, sharing out the podcast. You guys are awesome. And make sure you're subscribing wherever you're listening at iTunes, Stitcher, any podcast app pretty much. Looking at possibly getting it on iHeartRadio and a couple other places. But yeah, that's about all I got. I do want to, I guess, make sure that we didn't get any questions here, as I did put this out live on YouTube and Periscope. Obviously, Periscope, the questions would disappear and I didn't see any, but all right, looks like we are good to go. And again, thanks for listening. This is all I got. I'll see you guys in August with the recruiting podcast. Make sure you send in your questions, your recruiting questions, for me and hopefully Ross Martin. But until then, thanks for listening, and go Heels.